What's up, everybody?
Hello.
Welcome back to Love and Rice Podcast with your host, Aunt Ma.
I'm your other host, Christina.
And if you guys are new to the pod, make sure you guys subscribe and follow us on all podcast platforms. We are on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, iHeartRadio, also TikTok and Instagram. So please show some love so we can continue doing this for you guys because we love doing the show. And, on today's episode, we're going to be talking a lot about the Asian community and Asians who hate on other Asians, why that's such a thing, and also why we should really support each other. It's a big thing here. And I feel like for me, growing up, my parents are very, very involved in the community. They have their nonprofit organizations. They always support the Asians. They always help each other, uplift each other, and that's what I've grown up around. And my parents have always showed me what that support means to our community, you know. And lately, I've been seeing a lot of viral stuff going on social media about Asians hating on each other. There's a lot of beef going on, and you know, it's kind of, I don't know if the new generation has really been taught how we should support each other. You know,
Do you feel like it's only an issue within the Asian community, or do you feel like it's pretty much worldwide?
in terms of what? What do you
Well,
mean?
because I feel like anytime anyone, whatever their religion, culture, ethnicity, their background is, that whenever they see someone that is growing or being successful, they tend to have like kind of like a little spark of like jealousy, or
Mm.
they're not supporting them fully. Like you'll have a lot of people who are supporting certain people that go viral on social media and things like that, but then you always have these constant haters in the back that are just like trying to discredit these people from what they're doing.
I think the difference is the Asian community compared to, Western people or people from just anywhere else is that we have come from so far, and I'm talking about the time your parents were born, the time your
Mm-hmm.
grandparents were born. Life was hard for us Asians, so difficult. And I always hear the stories from my grandparents and from my parents about what they went through. You know what I mean? And so, I'm kind of really talking about how we went from all the struggles to where we are now and how come that support doesn't continue. You know what I mean? So, like, for example, a long time ago when our grandparents were born, they were still in China,
Mm-hmm.
right? They weren't here in the US yet until they needed, workers here. And, they weren't allowed to have the freedom. They weren't able to vote. They weren't really able to do anything, right? They were stuck in their little Asian community in the US, right? They would face racism
Yep.
from other cultures. Um, and it was just such a struggle. You know what I mean? And so, like, then you see laws pass for minorities, right? Now they can vote. They can stay here if they get, their citizenships and things like that. And now you start seeing people like our parents coming over, and things like that. Um,
I feel like that's probably the disconnect between society now within the Asian community compared to before, because with our parents, right, we got to see them being immigrants and not being in the US. So
mhm.
they're already born into poverty. They didn't have the freedom to do anything, they didn't
I
have resources and money.
I think that's key. What you said is that they're born with in poverty,
Right.
right? So all they can do is they started from the rock bottom, and all they can do is really support people, or when they are doing things themselves and trying to be successful, and they see others do it, they're like, "Wow, you did it too. How did you do it?" And they all share the same background and struggles that they went through. So I think that's the difference between back then and now is that most of us now don't have poverty because our parents have paved the way for us for the freedom of living in America.
Yeah, and I think our parents have worked so hard and did so much, like even swimming in the ocean or coming by boat to get here
Right.
and coming in here with just a few dollars, right? So I feel like they raised us to be more grateful and to understand their struggle. And at the same time, the struggle of parents now, I feel like it's completely different because the lifestyle is different too.
Right. So one story that my dad told me was that he was the first one in his family to come to America. And after so many years, he was able to get enough money to send the rest of his family over. There's five siblings, there's a mom, and he sent everybody over. You know what I mean? And that act alone shows support to bring people, over,
Mhm.
to where nowadays we don't have that. We have no one to bring over, right?
Right.
So like the support for other Asians is kind of missing that foundation already, right? So it's like when my dad brings over his siblings, he is now always just trying to help other Asians, bringing
Yeah.
them over. When they're here, how can he help them? And also now how can he help himself? And so when our parents are successful and now we are living such a good life that maybe some of those immigrants forget to tell us those stories, you know, or maybe now there's another generation, that's newer than us, and it just gets watered down, and they're not told those stories of struggles to where it just gets missed,
Right.
right? And so, like, do you know why Asian gangs even started in the first place in America?
What I mean, was it just more for territory and trying to protect themselves because of all the racism that was happening?
Yes and no. So it was not territory. It's more of like when my dad first came here, right? There's only so many Chinese people, right? And so he would get picked on by Americans and other
Mm-hmm.
people. And so there were gangs formed to protect their own kind. The gangs were to protect other Asians from the outside world.
Right.
And that was what the gangs were for, right? And then now, when those people have kids and they're our age, it's no longer protecting our each other. It's now become a little watered down to where they've lost sight of the why of why they're protecting our community. Now they're fighting with each other. They're killing each other
Mm-hmm.
over territory. I'm the best Asian. We are the best crew, things like that. And that whole misconception is lost.
That's so crazy when you talk about when our parents first came and how they had to create gangs and experience racism.
Yeah.
Because even for us, when we were kids growing up, right, even like in elementary, middle school, I remember still dealing with racism,
Yeah.
and I felt like that was something that wasn't really taught in school yet. And it was kind of like the peak of, I wouldn't say it was the peak of racism, but I felt like it was such a strong thing. So I can't even imagine how bad it was for our parents growing up.
It was bad. You know what I mean? Just like when you think about gangs had to be formed to protect themselves from racism. You know what I mean? So people can't take over their lives. And so, like, we need to figure out a way to continue protecting each other and supporting each other. And it always gets lost as new generations come. And so, like, now we're in this new generation where we're all on social media,
Right.
right? And when social media first started, how hard was it for Asians to be in
On the screen, in
on the
front of the
screen, right?
camera. Yeah,
Right,
that was a
because
huge thing.
even in movies, we were portrayed as people with the thick glasses, buck teeth, with the accents, right?
Yeah, I hated that too because I felt like if it happened for so long and then for us to want to be proud of the Asian representation on screen, we're
You
like,
can't.
yeah, we're just like trying, right? We're like, this is so cool, but at the same time, why do they have to they portray Asians as like the nerdiest role in that movie or show, or they have to have like a very Chinese or whatever name, right? Like a very typical Asian name. They had to have this crazy accent. And I'm like,
Like,
why do they have to be so stereotyped that way, you know?
it's crazy. Like, most of the time, that's not us, right? The names, I get it, right? Because we come from a different country and that's our legal names. But we don't all have that accent. We're not all, you know, super nerdy and stuff like that. It's like even in the Western people, there's people like Steve Jobs who's super nerdy, and Bill Gates, but that's not every person in the movie, right? There's cool
Mm-hmm.
people, right? And they just now they're starting to show cool people,
Like normal,
right?
your typical
So like
Asians.
they're now showing Simu Liu, who is a superhero, right? Now this
Mm-hmm.
is your more normal American, or he's not even American, he's Canadian Asian, right? And like we can be normal, right? We can be cool just like everybody else. And so just now we're seeing that, right? And we're seeing that on social media, on Instagram, on YouTube and stuff. And it's very cool to see. Like, I don't know, things like Shang-Chi, that's
Mm-hmm.
not my favorite type of Marvel movie to watch. You know, I love X-Men, I love other Marvel stuff. I didn't really know much about Shang-Chi, but I'm so happy to see someone like that bring bring us to life. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm still happy to see this happen, right? And so it's kind of crazy that now on social media there's, for example, here's a story I'll tell you guys. The younger generation on social media, they're streamers, right? Streamers are the new thing right now. We're talking about Twitch, Kick, um, TikTok streams, whatever, right? Everyone's streaming right now. And it first started with people playing video games and streaming, and
Mm-hmm.
now they're streaming in real life where they walk around and they're streaming everything that they do, for like 4 hours.
So it's kind of like vlogging, but except it's in real time.
Yep,
That's
live
so
vlogging,
interesting.
right? Whether they're in front of their computer at home or they're walking out and doing stuff or they're eating, collaborating with people. And so there's this crazy stuff going on where there's this new guy. There's this new young cat. His name is Jason. I don't know, Jason the Ween, or I really don't know his full name. But this guy is growing so fast. I see him on social media and I'm looking at these clips. I'm like, wow, who is this guy that's becoming so popular, growing so fast? This is really cool to see. This is a great experience that we get to watch here. You know, and what's going on is that there's this other Asian podcast that started talking about him and how he's growing, but instead of supporting him, they say, you know what? He's only getting 20,000 views, and so the guys are saying like
20,000 views on what though?
live
Just
stream.
that's actually a pretty good amount.
That's a lot
Yeah.
because there's not that many people online at the same time, right?
20,000 to be able
It's a
to
lot.
tune in on a live
I mean, even
stream.
1,000 is a lot,
That's yeah,
you
that's
know?
pretty crazy.
And so when an Asian person says, that's not that much, compared to how many people are living in the world right now, you can see that's not much, right? And so it's a little weird because instead of supporting each other and being happy to see growth and another Asian in front of the screen, it's more of like, I've seen better or whatnot, right? It's
Mm.
like it's downplaying the success of what people are doing. And I really don't like that because that's almost like the old school generation thinking of you're not good enough
Mhm.
parenting, right?
Yeah, I feel like that almost kind of trickles down to like, so I guess maybe specifically within the Asian community, we've talked about this before, but it's like growing up and then kind of having your parents always compare you to other people
Yeah,
to the point where it becomes so toxic. And then you're always getting compared to like your cousins, your family, friends, and just people you don't even know about their success compared to yours. So then maybe it came down to that, like, I don't know, implanting something into us where we're like, so competitive, or
right.
we're so spiteful every time we hear some kind of comparison of someone else's success. We're just like, ugh, yeah, okay, whatever,
I mean,
so
I kind of get where that comes from because our parents work so hard and they're like, they see the other Asian kids like, why can't you do that? We're providing you this life. I want to see you flourish, right?
mm-hmm.
But they miss all that communication and it's straight up like, how come you're not a lawyer? How come you're not a doctor? Right. And so now that's kind of the mentality that's coming into this guy on the podcast where he's like, well, I've seen better numbers. This
But
guy
that's
is
so
nothing.
crazy though. That's not even a legitimate comparison. How are you going to
It's not.
compare live
So
viewers to like a population?
that's why this is going viral because now
Yeah.
people are saying, hey, how come he's not supporting this other Asian guy? Why is he not happy for him? Why is he downplaying everything? You know what I mean? And so the guy doesn't get it, he's just like, that's not what I meant, things like that. But for me, when I first saw that guy Jason going viral on TikTok, I'm like, whoa, this is kind of interesting. This guy is pretty cool. And then I click on his profile thinking this guy's got millions of followers. And I'm like, oh, he's actually only got like 30K followers. And then all of a
Mm.
sudden he's got 100K followers, and I'm like, wow, I thought this guy was gonna have more. But my thinking wasn't like, oh, he like oh, that's not much. My thinking was like, this is cool. He's growing, and we're gonna see this guy get millions and millions of followers one day. And I want to see this happen for him. You know what I mean? Like that is the mentality of support that we should be giving each other.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what this whole episode is about. Is like we cannot forget to be happy for one of another. You know, and so
Do you feel like it comes down to entitlement now because the way that
a little bit.
kids are raised compared to before is very different because we had to grow up experiencing the struggles firsthand, seeing our parents struggle, trying to learn like English as a second language. Like there are just so many barriers. But then now you have these parents that are very Americanized and we've kind of we've gotten through that struggle, right? So now that the kids that are growing up, like they don't really have to experience it. And there's a lot of like issues with kids kind of just getting spoiled now because parents try to do everything for the kids now. Like we tend to not let our kids struggle as much as we once did because we're always trying to aim to give them a better life, but at the same time we're kind of crippling them.
I don't know if it's really entitlement. I think it's more of I don't even know if it's jealousy. I just think it's the old Asian mentality of like you can do better.
Mm,
That's what I saw, but it came out the wrong way, and I don't know, it's just so ingrained in them. And like I'm not hating on another Asian podcast. Like I'm happy to see as many Asian podcasts as possible on Spotify. You know what I mean? Like I don't care how many followers you guys have. Do your thing. Let's blow this shit up, and I want to see everyone succeed you know and so it's just I want to say my opinions on how we need to keep telling the younger generation, let's continue being happy for each other, let's continue bringing each other up, you know what I mean. And I feel like a lot of that does get lost in social media. There's a lot of times when I see some big influencers on Instagram and I'll DM them and I'll say, hey man, congratulations on your growth. It was great watching you. I was watching you when you're like at 60K followers and you're now at 2 mil. And
mm-hmm.
I'm so happy to see that growth. And I don't expect any kind of response from them. I'm just like, hey, I just want to let them know they're doing a fantastic job,
Yeah.
you know? And then sometimes I'll get the DM back, like it'll just be seen and I'll be ghosted. Or they don't reply, or they reply back saying, cool, thanks. You know what I mean? Um, and I don't know if they understand where these messages come from, because I'm just saying, hey, I love watching your growth, right? It's not typical that we see this right now.
Yeah.
And so on the other end, are they taking it as, oh, this guy is just trying to um become my friend? Is this guy just trying to uh do some collabs, or what's going on here, right? But like it goes both ways. There should be support, appreciation, and that's it, right? Just to recognize that level of respect is kind of just what I'm kind of getting at here.
Yeah, I feel like with a lot of social media and content creators, they probably, get a lot of DMs from other people, and I
Hmm.
feel like they just kind of you kind of forget the background of the struggle and the Asian community because do you remember when we went through like the whole what was it like the Black Lives Matter,
Hmm.
that whole situation, and I feel like that was when Asians got together and kind of banded together, and I think we're the strongest at that time because it kind
Hmm.
of led from that point to like stop Asian hate. And I think people forget about that because it's now that it's passed and it's done with, right? People are just kind of worried about themselves and trying to grow like individually, and I don't think it's so much of wanting to grow within the Asian community, if that makes sense.
I mean, like we started this podcast with the name Love and Rice because we wanted to do something within the Asian community.
Mhm.
We wanted to talk more about our culture, more about how it is us growing up in the Asian American community and how we are now as older people, right? And like there's not many people our age that can spill out the whole experience of their life that they went through
Mhm.
in our community, and that's why we started this podcast, right? And so I don't know, it's just it's crazy how things have become nowadays.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people tend to try to just start up on social media because, you have all these other content creators that are talking about like, "Oh, this is how my life is, like doing podcasts, live streams, etc." Right? Like building a career on social media. And I think now people are just trying to jump into doing these things without really having a purpose and not having like a meaningful purpose behind why they're doing it, right? So then you have all these people who are trying to start podcasts and just talk about certain things. They're not filtering themselves. And then now it's like they probably blew up in the beginning,
Hmm.
and now all of a sudden it's kind of getting to their heads and they're like, okay, well, their true colors may start to come out to the point where they'll say these things, and now they're getting like called out for it and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are just trying to start something and be a star, and they're not really focusing on like, oh, well, I want to support the Asian community and I want to uplift the community, if that makes sense. They're just thinking
Yeah,
about themselves.
a lot of the big picture gets forgotten. I think right now there's this crazy thing going on with Simu, going back to Simu Liu, and there's this show that he has, where he's trying to support businesses.
Yeah,
Did you
what
see
is it
that?
called? Yeah, it's been popping up on my feed
Dragon
everywhere.
something,
Dragon's Den, I
Dragon's
think,
Den. So it's
right?
like a Shark Tank,
It's like
right?
a Shark Tank. Yeah.
And so there was this European
Yes,
company
I believe
brand
so.
that said, you know what, they like boba and they want to make it better, so they created something to make it better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Simu saw that and he saw the can and he's like, hey, why are we making boba better? Well, number one, boba doesn't need to be made better, right? Number two, all of the stuff that's on your can says nothing about where boba really came from,
Right. There's no
right?
origin of.
And honestly, I don't know if it needs to say that stuff, but it, I don't know. It's does it need to say it?
Well, but then, well, I guess maybe not so much specifically in the history, but if you have people who are from Taiwan that are helping you build this brand and the products and doing all of the R&D,
Hmm.
like, wouldn't you think that it would kind of make sense to include that? Because I
You
don't
know, you're
even,
right.
right?
Usually you'll read something that says we love boba so much that this is our twist of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now they already showed appreciation to where it came from,
Right.
right? And so now it's just they're kind of the weird thing is that the name is also boba with an extra b in it.
Boba.
Is it
Yeah.
right?
BOBBA.
Um, and I don't know, like for us, we have a matcha company,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we're Chinese, matcha is Japanese. But we talk about everything where matcha came from, where it's sourced, how it's so traditional. We have 101s. We have a lot of education on it. We have videos of us going to Japan, going to the farms, showing how it's made, and it's just we celebrate matcha. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And um,
And the way that we market it is more of showing how much we appreciate the
and
culture
how
and the
much we love it.
process and how much we love like their product specifically. But I think the issue with boba was that they were basically saying like, oh, well, we got boba and we're making it better and healthier. And I think like what you're saying too, it came down to their presentation and the way that they communicated things,
Right.
because it's like the way that our parents try to teach us, right? Like they didn't know how to communicate it, so that's why they got so much backlash and for it.
Yeah. I mean, like for our matcha, we're not saying we're the best matcha. We're
Right.
not saying we're making matcha better. We're saying we're bringing high quality traditional matcha to you
From
that
Japan,
from
from
Japan
farm to
to the
here.
cup,
Yep.
right? And so what I've been seeing though is all that Simu stuff. I see the comments and everyone is now supporting the Asian community again. You know,
Yeah, because when you watch that episode, it's just so cringe because you see that he is actually making some very valid points about cultural appropriation and their approach on things and just not fully appreciating the product itself, right?
well,
And no one else was supporting him. There were other minorities that were sitting there with him and they were kind of just like, "Oh, well, it doesn't have to be traditional," kind of like blowing him off,
mhm.
you know? So it's kind of like where was the support from all the other people who have probably experienced the same things, but they were, they're just thinking about making money rather than like, oh, actually, you're right. Like, but they didn't want to offend the
Yeah,
company making the pitch.
I don't think it needs to be traditional, but you don't need to step on the original
Mm-hmm.
and throw it in the trash and start something brand new without educating people of where it came from, right?
Yeah, and whether or
Um,
not they were trying to be offensive about it or not, even then, it's like you never want to say that you took something from a different culture without giving credit to that culture and then saying that you're making it better.
what do you think about Jack in the Box, Starbucks, and all these other companies who now serve boba?
I always think it's weird whenever I see
It's a
these
little weird.
companies. Yeah, because I'm like, how does it make sense for you to market boba, but at the same time, it's different because the whatever they have is called popping boba,
Yeah.
right? And then they create like all these different flavors, and then you kind of just lose what boba really is. But at the same time, we have popping boba too, as well, right? Like with other dessert shops, right, within
Right.
the Asian community. So it's kind of like I don't know. It's just
It's weird.
weird
I'm
to
not
me.
used to it, seeing those things in all the American establishments. I love when I see it, I'm like, this is awesome. I love that boba has now gotten the exposure to all the other communities where now they can enjoy it. But
But
it
yeah.
doesn't taste authentic. And I'm like, damn, dude, these now people who try it are gonna and never have boba or for the first time, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I hate it. I never want to try boba again, thinking that that's the real kind,
Yeah, but I
you
guess
know?
at the same time too, there are a lot of people that I know that don't like boba. They don't like the
Right.
texture, the taste, and stuff like that. So maybe they're catering to other different types of people that are not within the Asian community, right? By making this, I would say it should be like popping jelly or something rather than boba because it's
Yeah,
not
I
really
don't know.
boba.
I don't know. I mean, I'm happy to see it on menus. I'm just not happy to have it be a different I'm just not happy that it's not authentic.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, I
all.
think it just depends on how they market it and stuff. If they can be respectful about it, like you can't really control what other people are gonna offer on their menu, right? Because there are
Yeah.
a lot of other companies that will you'll see like a I don't know American place selling tacos
Yeah.
or things like that. So it's like,
It's
where do you draw the line? You kind of just can't. So I think the way that we would help in supporting that kind of stuff is like you go and support the smaller businesses and you support the company like the companies that actually have real boba compared to like Jack in the Box that has
I
popping
mean,
boba and stuff like that.
I love that Jack in the Box loves Asian boba. I love that Starbucks loves Asian boba
But it's
because
not really Asian boba.
it's not. But I love that they think they're supporting us, and I love that part about it.
Yeah, I mean, are they supporting us or is it the same thing as the Baba situation where they're just wanting to make money because they're like, "Oh, boba is actually very popular and it's selling so well and there's all these boba places popping up. Should we do it too so we can make money?"
At the end of the day, people know boba comes from the Asian community,
Mhm.
and knowing that it's being established in other places is a good thing, even if it sucks. You know what I mean? Um, and I don't know the difference between that and this I don't know, company. I think everyone has their own opinions to it.
Yeah, I think for theirs, their healthier option was like, I don't think they had teas. It was more of like juices and which they consider healthier than tea and stuff,
I
right?
mean, juice is fine.
Yeah, I think it's just the way that they communicated things and they're like, "Oh, what's really in boba?" But like we know what's in boba because when you go to the tea shops, it tells you exactly what's in the drink and stuff,
Are
you
they
know?
are they saying that they're trying to make it better tasting in a can? Because every time I buy one in a can, they're like the pearl ones,
Yeah.
and they don't taste good.
I
And they're
don't
made by our
yeah.
own people too. But it's like I don't really like it.
I
Maybe are they trying to say they're trying to make that better?
I think they're trying to make it better in terms of healthier.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
That's pretty much what it was.
I mean, it's
Cuz
a
boba's
dessert.
starch,
I
yeah.
don't know. It's a
So,
dessert.
I don't know.
It's like trying to make cake healthier.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I want a cake, I want to enjoy the whipped cream and the sugar and the frosting.
You know the difference that I've noticed with when we started doing social media, like there wasn't that presence of like Asian Americans being on camera, being on the screen. We were always so shy and more worried about what other people would think about us, right? Cuz that's how we were raised. But nowadays, I feel like with social media being a primary focus for a lot of people and everyone has access to it, that people getting famous on whatever social media platforms is just so much easier. So
Hmm.
it's like that's where you kind of there's that gap between our generation and the newer generations because they don't have to worry about like trying to represent for the Asian community. It's more of just like I just want to get famous and that's it and go viral, you know. So it's competitive in a different way now rather than wanting to support other people.
What do you think about if someone said I want to make pho better?
Oh, but there are people who have done it and it was
Like
like
what?
um well, I don't know if it's them saying that they want to make pho better, but then I think that before um I've seen someone get hate and it was like some Caucasian guy and he was just like, "Oh, here's my pho recipe." And I think the way that he was making it it was not pho at all. So a lot he was getting a lot of hate for it cuz people are like, "Why are you making a recipe and showing a tutorial of how to make pho when like everything that you're putting in there is very inauthentic?"
I don't know. I mean, like that's just what he has in his house. I don't know. I mean, he made it wrong, but does he deserve hate for that? Because for me, what if I was just, we make hamburgers.
Yeah.
Hamburgers is not Asian, it's American. And if I made a hamburger bad, would I get hate?
Well, I think it's more of like if you're actually trying to make a recipe and you're trying to show people how to make it, it kind of takes away the whole like, well, maybe don't label it as pho because it's not
You know,
pho.
if I made something from another culture and I tried to make it and I said it sucked, like, or if I tasted it, I'm like, damn, this isn't good. I would say that immediately. I'll say, damn, I think I made this wrong. And I
Yeah.
think we've done that multiple times when we try to
Yep.
make certain things, right? And I'm like, this does not taste right. I fucked up, you know? But I think the other people who try to imitate those recipes, they think it tastes good.
Maybe.
Like they're proud of what they made, which is fine. You're proud of your work,
I think it's
but I
more
don't
so of
know.
like trying to put it out there that like, oh, this is my version of pho, right? Like my own version that I like to make at
But
home.
what's wrong with that? Is it they're
It's
saying
because
it's
they're
their
not saying
version,
that.
but
Yeah, they're not saying it. They're just like, "Oh, this is how you make pho," you know? So they're kind
mm.
of taking it as their own and kind of like saying like this is the proper way of doing it type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's like stealing recipes and then opening up a restaurant saying that it's yours,
Yeah.
right? It's a
Yeah.
big part of plagiarism in the food industry.
Yeah, and I think we usually tend to avoid restaurants and businesses that are like that. So it's like I don't know, everything you see is like on social media now. I swear I saw someone post something and they took a picture of a pho restaurant and they're like, I have to walk by this every day and I can't support them because it's like a a white company that owns like pho and sells pho. And I don't that's all I know of it. I didn't really look into it, but I was like, "Oh, I mean, I can understand. Like I would rather support these small businesses that are more authentic rather than like people who are just trying to capitalize on someone else's culture or food."
What is the difference between an American opening a pho restaurant and not making the food authentic and an actual Asian owned pho place who still can't make the pho correctly? Like when I go to those places,
Mm,
I don't like the food, and I'm like, I'm never coming back because how can you not make this right, right?
right.
So my level of disliking the place is the same whether it's an American owned
That's
or an
right.
Asian owned, because we do have places here in Vegas where the soup is very, very weird and not authentic. And
Mhm.
I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it's Asian owned, you know? And so, like, I don't know. I would say the same thing. It doesn't matter who they are. It's just, damn, where's the authenticity in this?
Yeah, I think it's like we've been to a lot of sushi places and sometimes it'll be like Chinese owned and we don't know this until we're there and we hear them start speaking a different
Yeah.
language and we're like, "Wait a minute, they're not Japanese." And then once we realize that, we'll just be like, "Okay, well, we'll give it a try because we're here. They have good reviews."
Yeah.
But then you can taste the difference with the food because they do it their own way, right? So it's kind of like you're not hating on that restaurant, but then you also can tell the difference and can really appreciate like the Japanese culture when it comes to their sushi
Yeah.
because of the
I mean,
quality and the way they make it, right?
I just want them to do it right. You
Yeah.
know, like, we went to a sushi place last week and I think they were Korean,
Mhm.
and but everything was authentic about it. It was the best the best quality that I've had here in Vegas. Everything tasted great. They had the bentos. Like everything was authentic, and they did it right. And there are Koreans doing it right.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. I'm like, oh, thank God this tastes so good. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and it just shows that they really
Put in
took
the
all
efforts.
aspects into consideration and although they're trying to have a restaurant that's not specifically within their culture, they made it the best that they could to their knowledge and they studied it and they made sure that they
Yes.
what they were offering is what customers would expect.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Is in order for it to be right, you have to study how it was made in that culture, and you got to study the culture and how they did it, right? You got to know how to do it the right way. And when you skip all those things and you get the final product, you will know,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, I don't know. Like if that Baba company went to Taiwan and tested all kinds of bobas, would they have come back and provided a different product?
Maybe, because I don't even know if they went to that extent of it. They probably it sounds like they just had people who were in Taiwan who dealt with all of the process, right?
And I think you should go explore that culture and see how it's done right. Because don't you want to make it original?
Yeah, I mean, for some people, it might not be an option, and that's why they end up just having people that are there and dealing with it, right? I don't know.
I don't know. Then that's not done the right way. I mean,
Yeah,
like you got to know where things originate from and how they're done. And if you want to make it better, you can make the process different. You can add the different flavors, but you can't change the originality of it.
yeah,
It's got to be where it came from. I don't know. So this is a hard topic to discuss. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, um, you know, maybe we're different. Maybe I grew up different, having my parents in the community doing a lot of extra volunteer work, and myself too doing a lot of community work. Like my heart is always with supporting each other. Um, when I see other people in who are blowing up and they're not in our community, I am happy to see it, but I'm not like as excited, When it's our own community, I'm like, damn, this is dope. It's just a different
because we know the
feeling.
struggle of how it was when we first tried to get into the scene
Yeah.
compared to like what it is now because you see all these accomplishments that are happening within the Asian community and you also see them on screen now and getting awards and being acknowledged because the representation was never there
Yeah.
for us. So it's like how can you not appreciate that?
So, guys, don't forget, okay, to support one another, no matter what community, what your culture is, where you came from. You cannot forget to support and be happy for people's success. You know what I mean? It would only make you a better person, you know. There's just I don't know, we just gotta kind of have to stop this type of thinking of hate and discrediting others and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it also just comes down to the parents too, like trying to remind your kids of where they came from, the struggles, like always, right? Like our parents always do that with us. Always remind your kids of the struggles that you're going through so that they don't think that everything is just given to them
Do
because
you think it's the parents' fault?
I wouldn't say it's the parents' fault, but I would say the parents have a lot of influence and you have to start at a young age because once they get older, all that influence is coming from their friends, you know? So you have to kind of always ingrain these principles in them and get them to understand and be grateful and mindful of like where they came from, where their parents
Like,
came from.
what about this take on Jeremy Lin? When he first came into the NBA, a lot of us were like, this is amazing. I've never
Yeah.
seen an Asian American be in the NBA, you know? And then you have the other Asians who are like, this guy is ass. He sucks. I don't care for him. I don't like him. Maybe if he was better, I would support him. You know, I don't support him because he sucks, you know? And like for me, I am biased because I'm like, yeah, he's not like a superstar at certain times, but I'm rooting for him to
Yeah.
be one.
Yep.
I am rooting for that, you know, and so it's hard to see. You know, I have friends who say it straight up to me, like, uh, "He's ass, and I don't like him," you know, and I'm like, "What? Like, how can you not?"
Well, I mean, it kind of it really does depend. Like you would appreciate it because you like the representation that you see. But at the same time, like there can be people who may not be as talented or who I don't know, like some of the people that blow up sometimes on social media, I just wonder and I'm like, how did this person blow up? And sometimes it's for the reasons where you're just like, do we want this kind of representation, you know?
So it's like, I kind of get it, where it's like you don't have to like every Asian just because they're Asian,
Yeah.
right? And I get that, but do you want to see them do better? Or do you want to pray for their downfall? You know, and I think that's the difference. And that's what I saw with a friend where he was just like, I don't give a shit about him. You
Yeah.
know, like he doesn't want to see him do any better. And it's like, damn, dude.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of people who are gonna hate and not appreciate or respect people that are doing successful. But I think it's more so of just like letting it be, and why waste your time trying to talk down on someone else? Like
Like,
you can coexist at the same time and not have to bash each other to be successful. You can be successful in your own way, and this person can be successful in their own way, and you don't have to judge. And especially putting it out on social media and kind of like you're setting that example of like
of going
of
backwards.
going backwards, yeah, and you have all these people who are following you and you're kind of like a role model to them. So you have to remember when you're a content creator or if you're on social media, like you have people who are following you and looking up to you, so it's kind of like you can't.
Um, man,
I don't know.
at the end of the day, yeah, I don't support some Asians because of the way they are.
Right.
They might just be a bad person, and that's why I don't like them. So I get it when it's like, I am not supporting another Asian just because they're Asian. Yeah, I totally get that, and that's understandable. At the end of the day, is like, are they a good person or a bad person? That is who we should support. You know. Um,
Yeah, and I think even for us too personally, like we've gone through the struggle of trying to be on social media and we've been on it for so long and you know, we've had friendships that come and go and we deal with things in our personal lives where you know, we've come across good people, we've come across bad people, we've come across like questionable people, but we don't usually ever put things out on social media because we're like, what is the point, you know?
you know what I really that really caught my eye about this Jason guy that's blowing up. So he's from this crew called Phase Clan, who were they started off with like streaming games,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they live in a house together and like, you know, they hype each other up. But he's the only Asian in the group. The rest are, you know, from all different other cultures. And so when you see this one Asian guy blowing up, you're like, whoa, this is awesome to see. And I think it's
Yeah.
because you can recognize that he is the only one in there who's Asian, and we know how that feels. You know, so to see that success and growth is an amazing thing to watch. And I think that's also the difference too is when you see the independent Asian like Jeremy Lin in
Mm-hmm.
the NBA full of all the other cultures, it's an amazing thing to watch. And I don't care if they suck or they're bad at what they do. I just want them to try, and I really pray for their success because they already got their foot in the door,
Yeah.
and it's going to open the door for many other people, you know. Um, and that's just what draws my attention to it. So, wow, tough topic here. Um, I hope you guys enjoyed our podcast, Love and Rice. And if you guys see anything that's clipped out of here, make sure you listen to the whole episode. Uh, and yeah, make sure you follow us and subscribe on all podcast platforms. We are on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TikTok, and Instagram. And we'll catch you guys next time on Love and Rice.
Bye.
Peace.